Hello and welcome to In Stitches. This is part 2 of the series where I'm looking at this cute little industrial overlocker, the Singer 81K73. I'd recommend you take a look at part 1 if you haven't seen it already. I'll leave a link in the description down below. In this video I'm going to go through and we'll install the newly sharpened blades, thread the machine up. We'll have a quick look at the likes of the differential feed adjustment and the stitch length adjustment. We'll see if this machine will actually sew. As I said in the first part, I don't have the table or a motor for this machine, but let's just see if we can get the machine to form a stitch at least. Okay, that's the blades sharpened. They didn't look too bad actually, so I'm hoping there's not some other issue there, but they should cut a bit better than what they were, hopefully. And to do this I will install the throat plate, because the throat plate determines the height of the lower knife. You bring the lower knife, the cutting edge of the lower knife, up flush with the top surface of the throat plate there. Just get that quickly screwed on there. And then install the blade here. It's pretty close to flush there, just up at a little fraction. There we go, and tighten this screw there. That actually seems to be, yep, that's it. Install the top blade here, and then we just want to set that so that when it's at its down position, down here at its lowest point, we want the blade to be just the end, this edge, front edge of the blade to come down about a millimetre, sort of rule of thumb there. And I'll just tighten that mounting screw there, and hopefully, oops, it just turned a little bit there. I'll just set that back. That'll be this setting here. In fact, I think what's possibly happening is the stopper here is hitting its stop before the blade has actually, pushed up against the lower blade, if you know what I mean. So there might be, the stopper here might be just holding the top blade out slightly, which is going to affect its cutting ability, obviously. So what I want to do is just maybe see if I can move this stopper. It's on a spring. If I loosen that stopper there, see if I can move that across to give that a little bit of clearance at least there. I really just want a little bit of clearance in between the stopper and the carrier, knife carrier here. If I just pull that back, wiggle that forward, I'm just going to temporarily put my tweezers in there just so that it doesn't close the gap. Tighten that up. Oh, that screw's stripped. Is it? Yeah. Yeah, so that's actually a problem. This screw here is stripped, so I can't tighten that stopper. Okay, yeah, close look at that screw. Yeah, stripped. That's no good. I don't actually think it will matter too much. Sorry, my side light has just gone out. Yeah, that is not cutting well, and this is a problem this is a problem because that screw there with this little slider stops the blade from moving like this here. And because I can't get this tight, that blade is floating there. Yeah, so that is quite a problem. Now, I guess one way of sorting that out is to see if I can get another screw and hope that, you know, the thread there on that, you know, the thread inside the hole of this part here is not damaged, because if it is, then any screw is going to be a problem. Or is the screw broken? Just having a close look there to see if maybe the tip of that screw is broken off in there, but no, I can see the shaft moving there. So this floating around like this is no good. Just going to try and have a close look at the threads, see if I can get a good look at the threads there. Just trying to get a good angle. Get my torch onto it. Yeah, the threads look a little bit messed up in here as well, so that's not good. That is not good. I can't imagine we'd be able to find a part, you know. It's not like I can ring Singer. Well, I could ring Singer, and very unlikely that they've got a part for this 1940s overlocker, which is a bit of a shame. I guess if I can find another screw that's got the same thread, I might be able to substitute something in there. Let's have a look at this one. I think this is quite a bit bigger. Yeah, that's a bigger screw. Just having a wee look around the machine to see if there's anything that I can just temporarily steal as far as a screw is concerned. I mean, let's just have a quick look. No, that thread's too big. This is quite a fine screw, really, when you look at the screw itself. That's miles too big. There's not many other screws on this machine that are this size. What about this? Just hoping, because that screw there is not really doing a whole heck of a lot. But is it the right size? It could well be. I wonder if the screw hole is in good enough condition, as in the threads in the screw hole, or whether it's stripped. But let's just try this screw here. You would hope that they use the same thread, right? But maybe they didn't, because it doesn't seem to be taking there at all. Which could be an indication also that the thread in there is damaged, which is a pity. Oh. Okay, well, I think that I could probably still test the machine without the cutter. That looks very similar. Yeah, I wonder if this thread is just damaged beyond, you know, damaged too much. I'm wondering whether I can drill and tap this hole here to another fine thread, maybe just go up a size and use a metric thread, fine metric thread. But we don't have much to work with there. So I think the next thing to do is to get that looked at, you know, to see whether I can drill and tap this to a larger size, that hole there. But in the meantime, I think what I'll do is I'll remove the blade here. In fact, probably should remove these working parts because I will be using the machine by hand. I'll just put this screw back in here. I should probably just remove that blade there. It must have been right on the limit of failing, I think, that screw. If I remove that, just make sure there's nothing that's going to fall out of here, like that piece. That piece might come out. Just make sure that gets put aside. I don't want anything falling out. I can't see anything else that's going to come out of there. That screw is quite tight, even though it's loose, if you know what I mean. It's not going to go anywhere. Okay, I think we can still test the machine. Just won't be able to cut anything, so I'll need to run down the side of a piece of fabric. Let's get the presser foot on here. Okay, that looks pretty good there. Get you in focus, sorry. Yeah, that looks pretty well lined up there. We'll just get this spanner back onto here. Okay. Well, yeah, that's a bit of a shame really, but you know, that's what you get sometimes when you're dealing with, what, 80-year-old machines, and the parts aren't available for them anymore. Okay, well, let's go ahead and thread the machine up and see if it'll actually sew. I've got a thread stand over the back there. I'll put 3 spools of thread on that. Now I'll start with the lower looper, or left looper, I think they call it here. It's just a matter of threading through this guide. There's another little take-up mechanism there. In fact, in the manual it says something about only thread through here if you want a tight 3-thread stitch. So I won't go through here just to start with, because we just want a standard 3-thread stitch, and we'll bypass that in the meantime. We can always easily thread through there if need be, but we come down through that hole there, and then there's another hole in the back through here, that one there, and then if we swing that out, turn the machine, and I can pick that up. A good pair of tweezers required, and then there's a hole right down here. I'll get you in closer. Just up through this guide here, he says as he drops the thread. Okay, up through there, try and stop it from falling down, and then over the tension, but between the discs there, like that, and then under this little nipper here, and you'll see that that nipper is actually driven by this spring here. So when the machine is turning, you'll see that as this turns, it comes up and it nips. It'll nip the thread there, and then it'll release again there. Just like that there. And then through this hole right from the back here, right through to the front, like that, and then there's another hole down here. Now, yeah, I hear people complaining about how hard overlockers are to thread, and this one is a perfect example. It makes the domestic machines look easy to thread. And then come in to the looper, back to front there at the heel, oops, bumping the camera, sorry, at the heel of the looper there, and then come around to the front to back on that eye of the looper there. Not so easy. Not too bad though. Especially if you can swing the machine around like I am. It's a bit more difficult on a table. Okay, so that's our left looper threaded. How did that go again? Sure it went in behind there. There we go. There we go. Right, just quickly do that there up. Okay, now that comes across there like so, and then just straight down here, straight down to this hole here, and then you go back to front through this hole here, and then, oops, just pull it out again, why don't you? Over, or is it under? Under this tensioner, through the next hole in that plate, and then around this take up over here, like so, back to front, and then under this, but over that center piece like that there. And then you basically thread from back to front the right looper through the heel of the looper, and it's a little bit awkward but can be done. Just back to front like that, and then front to back on the through the eye like that. Just make sure you're not tangled around anything. That's that there, and then it's the needle thread into the top there, up back through this other hole here, around the tensioner there, and then from back to front through that rear hole there, oops, rear there, over the top of the take up there, again through this hole. Let's see if I can position that just a little bit easier there, back to front through that one, straight down through here, under that little guide there, around in this tensioner, so like a pre-tensioner. Doesn't seem to have much pre-tension on it. I wonder if there's a little spring missing in here, but anyway, that should be okay. And then just around this hook here, it's a little eyelet guide there, and then just straight through the needle eye, and that's your threading done. Just front to back through the needle eye there, and we should be set to see whether this machine actually forms a stitch. Now let's get in a little bit closer and see whether we get a result here. A quick note on threading here. In the manual it shows a loop coming off this part here. You can see there's a thread guide here on the back part for this here, which I'm not using at the moment. That's for tighter overlocking for the lower looper or the left looper. but the manual also shows a thread guide here, but I don't think there's probably ever been one on here, but I'm not 100% sure. It doesn't look like there's much room here for another thread guide to go on here, so I'm not quite sure whether it's just come off at some stage or whether it was never there, but I'm not using that at this stage. So yeah, the threading might be slightly different to the manual there. I'm just going to use a little piece of this quilter's muslin here. I'll just fold it over here because we're not cutting, we'll just be going down the edge of this here. Okay, and if I raise the foot, I'll get you in close here. Okay, I hope you can see this clearly. Got you in pretty much as close as I can get you. I'll try not to bump the camera, but I'm going to start by just getting the fabric in here. In fact, let's see if it will just chain to start with. So just turn the machine over. Now you'll see there that it's not catching this top thread here, this looper thread. You can see it. Oh, you can see this top looper thread on this looper here. So it's coming out the back there, and the needle should go down behind, it should go over the top of that thread. You can see it there. The needle point should go over the top of it and then down between the thread here and the looper, but you can see that because it's just flapping around up here, that the needle's not getting to it, so it's not going to chain. So what you can do to sort of assist this here is you can just manually flip that under, and once it gets, see it's around there now, this thread here, and once you get that initial one done, it should start to link up. Okay, it seems to be chaining here now. Something making a wee bit of a pinging noise there, I'm not quite sure. That might just be the thread coming off the looper. But we are chaining. And if I just got a few sort of loose threads tangled up here, I can just, I'll probably get away with just trimming those off there. Okay, so we're probably going to have maybe loose threads, going to maybe make this look a little bit ugly, but just trying to get I'll get my fabric in here. Now you do have to be careful when you're doing this, if you're not using blades, not to allow the fabric to come too far to the right over here, because that will interfere with that upper looper coming up. And you know, if the looper coming up, this one, oops, sorry, bumping the camera, this looper here, you can see it comes up here, coming up there now. You just want to make sure that that top looper doesn't catch this material. Okay, and so here we go, we're on the fabric now, should be sewing. Now I haven't adjusted the tensions at all, and this is going to be, oops, sorry, bumping the camera, this is going to be a fairly slow process because I'm trying to gently do this without wobbling the camera too much, but I think we'll see in a second that we've got stitches forming here, and probably quite ugly stitches, I would say, because I'm coming across too far with that material there. It's just, see if I can get that back in a little bit, because it's going to be bunching up there. And I'm doing this from behind the camera. In fact, I'm looking through the, I'm looking at the camera screen. I'm not actually looking at the machine here. Okay. I've got quite a long stitch going here, really just to sort of try and speed things up. And we're nearly there. Okay, normally you would chain out quite a way there, but I think I'll probably be able to just trim that. Maybe just give it a bit of a pull, trim it there. Right, okay, it's not the prettiest, but the machine is sewing. Tension is no good. The stitch length's rather long. It's looking ropey. Excuse my dirty hands. That is a dirty machine. But it's forming stitches, right? Top tension might be too tight, I would say. Lower looper tension is possibly about right, but maybe that top looper tension is too tight as well. And because it's not cutting, you know, we're getting a variable sort of width along here, so that's why it's sort of gone all ropey like that. But yeah, I mean, the machine, I think, will sew, you know, if we put it under power, which I can't do today, obviously. I think the machine will sew. It's just a pity that the blade, this little clamp here, is no good. But at least it sews, that's one thing. I'm just removing the presser foot again to get you a closer view at the differential feed adjustment, which is done in the rear here, and also the stitch length adjustments done through the front. But I just wanted to remove the presser foot, and I didn't mention this, but there's this lever here which would normally have a chain attached to it, and it would go down through a hole in the table to another foot pedal. So you'd have your normal treadle, you know, for your stop and go, and you'd also have another pedal for the foot lift, so you could lift the presser foot with your foot. Okay, so I'll just get this presser foot off here and get you in close just to have a look at what we've got. Okay, at the moment, because I moved the adjustment accidentally for the differential feed, you can see that the feed dogs are pretty much moving in unison. The gap between the two feed dogs is pretty much where my finger is there, roughly. You'll be able to see the gap. So these feed dogs are independent. You've got a fine-toothed rear feed dog there and a more coarse-toothed front feed dog there. And we've got quite a long stitch length too. You'll see that when the feed dogs just start to come up through the plate there, and we'll turn the machine in operating direction, and they're feeding. They feed for quite a distance, and then they pop back down under the plate and come back for another go, another stitch there. So let's just have a wee play with the differential feed to start with, and that's adjusted on the back here. There's a little lever here, this lever, spring-loaded one there that I'm pushing with my thumb, is a little latch on a little ratchet there. So you can push this lever down. If we push it right to its, basically to its limit there, let's see what the feed dogs are doing here now. Okay, that's pretty much where we were. We're in unison there, fairly much. And if I change the setting, bring the lever up like that, what do we get? We get a gather stitch. You'll see that the front feed dog is catching up with the rear feed dog there. Get you in even closer, you can see it more clearly. See the front feed dog catching up there while it's above the plate, but when it's below, it extends out and then comes up and catches up again. So that is the differential feed. It looks like it's gather only, there's no stretch capability. On a more modern machine, you can also have the situation where the rear feed dog will actually outpace the front feed dog, and so that what that does is it causes a stretch motion. It's opposite to this gathering motion there. So that's the differential feed there. Stitch length will adjust the amount of travel on the feed dogs here while they're above the plate. So we've got quite a long stitch length there, I would say. I'll just set the differential feed back to standard there. See, we've got quite a long stitch length there. And if it was me also, you know, I would adjust these feed dogs. I think they're too high. I won't go too far into that at this stage. I mean, you know, maybe if I can get the blade situation sorted out, I might go and adjust those feed dogs. I just think they're a little bit too high. Anyway, let's adjust the stitch length. So if we have a look behind the cover here, and we've got 2 screws. Now, that screw there I think is the adjuster, and then we've got one, or that might be the adjuster in there. So that one that faces, it's sort of facing down, it does say in the manual. So in the manual it says to change the stitch length, turn the balance wheel until the lock screw and the feed eccentric appears in the hole of the cover. This screw faces slightly downwards, so that will be the lock screw. Just getting you a better angle there. This screw is the lock screw here. The manual says it faces down slightly, which it is, and it's got some wear on it, so it's obviously been adjusted. But that is a lock screw that needs to be unlocked. It was tight, so I'm just trying to stop the machine from moving while oh, yep, that's got it. So that is just releasing the adjustment, so it's not clamped. And then there's another screw, yeah, this one here, changes the eccentric on the shaft there. So turn the adjusting screw over to the right for a longer stitch. So if I want to go for a shorter stitch, I bring it, if I turn it anti-clockwise for a shorter stitch, I'm just having a look on the machine, and yes, that is correct. So I'm just going to tighten that up, the lock screw there, and then I'll give you a quick look at the stitch length now. Oh, turn in operating direction, feed dog's coming up, and feeding is happening, although it's not much feeding, you can see there. So that's a very short stitch length there. Okay. And if I adjust that again to increase the stitch length, undo the lock screw there, turn in operating direction to get that one, and then screw this one in, so that is clockwise. How far will it go? That's probably its limit. It's starting to get tight there. I'll just come back a little bit. Tighten the lock screw there, and let's have a look at that stitch length now. Yeah, a lot longer. See how long that stitch length is now. So the feed dogs are feeding the material quite a distance there. I think that's about it for this video. It didn't quite get to where I wanted to, but I got most of what I wanted to achieved with this machine. I've got the machine oiled. It's reasonably clean. I'll probably give it more of a clean before I give it back to the customer. We, let's say, lubricated the machine, threaded it, attempted to get the knife working, but that's a fail at this stage. I will see whether I can drill and tap this screw hole here and get a solution for this knife, the upper knife carrier here. But you know, got the machine sewing. It's sewing at least. It's not looking too pretty, but still not too bad either. So I hope you enjoyed that. I just thought there would be an interesting little video to show you this lovely little 81K73 Singer overlocker. Thank you as always to my patrons, and thank you for watching.